Well, one clock says 7, one says 7:59, so we'll split it, we'll call it 7. It is Monday, August 18th, and I'm going to call to order the City Council meeting. Will you please join me in the flag salute? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, everybody. All council members are present and accounted for, with the exception of Councilor Ort, who's been excused tonight. If there's any additions to the agenda? Are there any declarations of ex-parte contacts, conflict of interest, bias, etc.? I don't hear any. Opportunity for public comment, and looks like we got one green request. That's from Mr. Hayes. But before Mr. Hayes comes up, I have to read the disclaimer, and so let me do that real quick. The council will now receive public comment. We value the time and initiative members of the public take to share their thoughts with the council. The council's role during public comment is to not immediately respond, but to listen. If there is a follow-up necessary, we will direct city staff to do so. Remember that we all model the way for our community, and we ask that everyone share their thoughts respectfully. Those who have completed the request for recognition will be called up one at a time. Turn on your computer or your microphone, and state their name and city of residence. Each speaker will have 3 minutes, and with that, Mr. Hayes, the floor is yours.
Hello. Len Hayes, Stayton, Oregon. My statement is in regard to 2 weeks ago in discussion of the forest trail out at Pioneer Park that is currently fenced off. And I would have said something 2 weeks ago, but I didn't really get the gist of the entire conversation and the financial ramifications, everything, until after public comment could be made. So out of respect, I didn't say anything and just kept on listening and had discussions later. Okay. I probably could have raised my hand or stood up, but I just kind of let it go. So anyway, so today I'm saying something, and after talking with a few people and getting some ideas, it's there was a hefty price tag on that, and I really don't see that as being a very good idea, though it was voted, I believe, to kind of move forward with investigation and such and consideration. Do not believe it really should be on the ballot come November. We already have 9 parks, one that just got a grant, and we still have to maintain everything. So, though I will also say that very strongly looking at more grants, donations, or anything in regard to the forest trail should probably be the main focus right now, and not so much putting it on the November ballot, which I kind of have a hunch with anything and everything that's also going on outside the city and with the state in general and everybody's concern of money. Better just keep things with the pool and the parks pretty much in a stable area where they're at when they go on the ballot. Just wanted to say that on the record and say anything. Did you have any questions?
Council? No, thanks, Mr. Hayes. Doesn't look like it. Anybody else have an opportunity for public comment before I close it out? Can't hear? Okay, I'll try to speak a little closer to the microphone. All right, with that, we're going to move on. Now's an opportunity, Now we go to consent agenda for August 4th, 2025 City Council regular session minutes. What would council like to do?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda minutes from August 4th. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries 3-0. There is no presentations, correct, Julia? And there is no public hearing, so that moves us to general business, which is resolution number 25-029, approving the Stayton Sublimity Joint Sewer Systems Operation Agreement and authorizing the city manager to execute the agreement. And just for a note for staff and for council, I think Julie's going to give us an update tonight. There will be no council decision. We want to have Sublimity have the opportunity to hear what we have to say.
That's exactly right. I was there was basically, we want the council, the Sublimity City Council, to have an opportunity to review the full agreement. It's gone to the sewer committee and been revised and reviewed by staff, and I just got a little bit ahead of that. So, but it's still good for you to review it, give us comments and questions, and then Mayor Taylor is here if there's any questions, and then we can also share that back with the City of Sublimity. But I did want to just remind the council, this is another step in the sewer agreements that we've been having. We signed a contract a year ago that was essentially defining the costs and the services, but in that there were some elements that still needed to be refined. One of them was this operations agreement. One of them was establishing the system development charges, which is what you did at the last meeting. And then we also will have some code amendments that we'll be bringing forward in the next few meetings to align our codes, and Sublimity would be doing the same to make sure that we're having similar regulations. And we're still reviewing that as well. Within the operations agreement, we touch on both cities, and we're already doing a lot of this. It's sort of making sure that we're in alignment, and that Sublimity is doing some as well, and it's in the realm of what we're doing as well. Infiltration and inflow, there's some provisions in there for both cities and their commitment to reducing that. We define how Sublimity is providing notice to us through the development land use review process, and identifying how we can what we're doing with that information, so that we're making sure that growth isn't happening without us knowing it, and that we're able to accommodate that any increase in sewer. The contaminant reduction is both being handled through the code amendments and the code provisions that we're talking about, as well as education and outreach, which we've already started doing. If you went to the porta potties at Summerfest, you would have noticed some little signs that we had up that was telling people, when you go home, don't flush wipes down the toilet, and don't put fats, oils, and grease down the sink. And then Summerfest, or National Night Out, we also prepared a flyer that Sublimity was able to use at their National Night Out as well. So working on shared informational campaigns for contaminant reduction into our system. System development charges I already mentioned, and then just coordination and enforcement, so that we just sort of defining that so we're on the same page. So that's what's identified within the IGA at a very high level. But as the mayor said, I'm recommending or asking the council to table this until Sublimity Council's had a chance to look at it. But we'd ask that if you have any questions or comments, that you share that, so that we can resolve it before it comes back to you for a final vote.
Thanks, Julia. Council? Councilor Sims?
I was looking through this. I had a couple questions. First, Sublimity will provide State Planning and Public Works Department a timely written notice of land use applications. Mm-hmm. There's like no time limit on that, or I don't know, do we need to put a time limit on that, say like 60 days or something like that, or?
Generally, there's a land use process where you do requests for comments, so it can't be 60 days. That's going to be too much time. In most cases, generally, when we do notice and request for comments, it's just usually like two weeks, 20 days kinds of thing. So I think, well, I appreciate the question. I think I'm not excessively concerned about that because there's a land use process. We just want to make sure that that's within that land use process.
Okay, so they'd give it to you for comments before they approved it?
And what page were you on?
It's 4.2 on page 4 of that package.
Yeah, as part of the request for comments phase, that's going to be a set time frame. So as long as, we just want to make sure that we're included in their land use process timeline.
Okay.
So generally, when you have a land use process, you're going to have a certain list of people that are included in your request for comments and notification, and that's sort of just saying we want to make sure that we're included in that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And the other question I have it was 6.4 on page 7 was the SDCs. And you may have answered this before, I just don't recall, but are we paying the same SDCs for Stayton and Sublimity?
So we're paying, no, we're both paying the same shared SDC, and then there's a shared SDC, and then there's a Stayton only SDC, and then I assume that Sublimity, and I think they will be adopting this, I believe. I don't think they've adopted it yet. They'll be doing the similar, where they'll have a shared SDC and then whatever their SDC is. So the total SDC is likely going to be different, but where it's derived from is the same.
Yeah, I think we had some folks come up with those numbers, didn't we, at some point?
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
FCS
I
group.
remember now. That was okay. All right, those are the 2 questions I had.
Okay. Anybody else?
And then Mayor Taylor is here. I don't know
Right.
if he had anything he wanted to share, or...
Mayor, if you have anything to offer?
Oh, gosh, no, I guess I'll take a moment to, I just want to talk about, how positive this experience has been. You know, going into this, there was, some apprehension and how is this going to go? But I'm so pleased with the communication and the kind of the teamwork. Julia's been great, and just every step of the way, things seem to be happening the way they need to happen. And dealing with, especially like with our tour of the plant, and dealing with Danielle and her working with our public works, and especially on the I&I. You guys have your stuff together, and you being obviously a larger town and having the sewers treatment plant, Danielle runs a tight ship over there, and so we're really pleased to be a part of it. And I just want to say I just appreciate the way the whole process has worked out, and I'm excited to finally be done with this phase of it and then and move forward into operations. So thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Is it prudent to have public comment since it's on the agenda?
I think that's certainly fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would anyone like to give public comment in regards to the resolution number 25029? Okay, doesn't look like it, so we'll call that one good for now.
Yeah, so this will be tabled until, I believe that we're not going to, the Sublimity Council doesn't meet until after our next meeting, so it'll probably be the second meeting in September that will bring this back for adoption.
Okay, thank you. That moves us to resolution number 25030, awarding a contract for the construction of the Shaft Road Waterline Improvement Project to Civil West Construction, LLC. Barry?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councillors. Thank you. Barry Buchanan, Public Works Director. Introducing the request for approval award of the Shaft Road Water Line Improvement Project. The project is concerning a water master plan, the 2006 water master plan associated with water main to service and provide water to the ASR system. The ASR is currently being discussed in serious nature at the moment for both the drawdown issue and for long-term utilisation. Without this main, we will not be able to utilise the ASR when it's actually put in place. The study confirms that the Shaft Road water main is in actual fact totally necessary for the implementation and utilisation of that system. We advertised the project on July 22nd and we received 13 bids. The bids ranged from approximately $750,000 to $1.3 million. As I said, there were 13 bids. That's a large number of bids for us. I think I said that last meeting. We wish to award the contract to, we went out for notification and there were no objections to us awarding this from either the contracts or the general public. And the contractor that we're recommending is Civil West Construction LLC, and they were in actual fact the lowest, but they were conforming after submitting their final documentation within the constricted 2-hour time period after opening time. We would like to recommend that Civil West Construction LLC be awarded the project for the price of $748,800 plus a contingency in this case. And we're adding $75,000 as a contingency, bringing the total project sum or award, the agreed price that you would put your resolution on of $823,000 and a couple of cents. Thank you.
Thanks, Barry. There's an opportunity for public comment on this resolution. Okay, doesn't look like we have any. Council, what would you like to do here?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Patty.
Thank you. Barry, thank you for the staff report. I appreciate that and all this information in our packet. I'm overjoyed to see all these bidders, so that's awesome. I'm really happy, and I think that's a reflection that these folks are looking to do business with us, and so that's probably a reflection of your shop and your people and how easy you are to work with, and so I like that. The other thing is, you mentioned something about the master plan being updated last in 06. Yeah. And you're making the kill gesture, and I agree with you. I'm just wondering if we're talking about updating that.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All the master plans at the moment are up for renewal. We are currently working on the water master plan. The stormwater master plan. It is likely to be finished late this year with a revision that needs to be done early next year. So the stormwater system master plan will be completed about May, June time next year. At that stage, we'll start our next master plan, and we've got several that are in the row. And at that time, we'll decide which one's going to move forward first. The intention is bringing on our asset management planner to, in actual fact, coordinate and get those things underway. The first thing that we want to do to make sure that these things are being done in a constructive way is look at our asset registers and get our asset registers up to date. So there's basically a 5-step program that the asset manager will be responsible for, and the output of those 5 steps is the master plan arrangement. So it's not a tomorrow exercise, but it definitely is on the books for us to be revising, reviewing, updating all master plans that are in the pot at the moment.
Thank you. And just so I make sure I understand your vocabulary there, the master register, is that kind of like all of our assets listed in a spreadsheet, basically?
Asset register is basically the collection of all our assets down to what we call the MMI, so the minimum maintenance item. And so anything that we spend $1 on, we put in that asset register, then we condition assess it, then we prioritize it depending on risk or likelihood of failure and consequence of failure, giving us a prioritized list. At the moment, we do not have these things in place, so we cannot really easily and justifiably determine what the priority of the expenditure should be. We are doing projects on a firefighting basis as it stands right now. We want to get into a risk prioritized basis, and from that we then determine what the least life cycle cost solution is for the project. So we go through resident maintenance, operations, capital cost, capital works, a non-asset result. There's a list of about 12 different approaches that we look at. Then we look at the overall cost of each of those, look at the least life cycle cost, not the lowest cost, the least life cycle cost. So there is a difference between capital cost and the overall total cost of a project from conception to its disposal, and we look at that total price rather than just the upfront capital price. Select that, and then we also determine the least sorry, not the least, but the most acceptable resultant risk after we apply that result. Selecting that project to move forward, putting that in that program and putting the funds against it and moving forward. Sorry for the long answer.
No, I want to say thank you for getting in the weeds with us. But just to kind of summation that up, it kind of sounds like this is going to make us better at being stewards of the taxpayer dollar in Stayton if we have this. So,
Absolutely.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate that. Council, continuation of what you'd like to do here?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Sims or Councilor Carey? Who said it?
Move to award the Shaft Road Waterline Improvement Project to Civil West Construction LLC in the amount of $748,900.47.
Can I correct that, please?
Yes, I got
800.
it. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Actually, just to simplify it, I think you're moving to approve Resolution 25-030. So just read what's on the agenda. Yes, as presented. Sorry.
Be option number 1.
Move to award the contract for the Shaft Road Waterline Improvement Project to Civil West Construction LLC in the amount of $748,900.47 plus the $75,000.
Got it.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't have the mic on, did I?
I'm so sorry. So, but you're approving Resolution 25-030. Did he say that?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You need a resolution for 25-030.
Well, I guess just from a technicality standpoint, you're moving to approve a resolution that does these things. So rather than making a motion to do those things, you're approving the resolution. So it's just more of a technicality.
So I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 25-030, award of contract for the Shaft Road Waterline Improvement Project.
Perfect.
A second.
Okay. Before I discuss this, are we good, Julia, on the technical piece of it?
No, we're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion and a second to approve resolution number 25-030, awarding a contract for the construction of the Shaft Road Waterline Improvement Project to Civil West Construction, LLC. Any further debate? Melanie, can you poll the council on this one?
Counselor Patty?
Yes.
Counselor Carey?
Yes.
Counselor Sims?
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you. Thanks, Barry. That leads us to the next item agenda, which is a fiscal year 24-25 quarter 4 financial update as of June 30th. Mr. Brand.
Good evening. For the record, James Brand, City Finance Director. This is the fourth quarter update for the fiscal year that just ended, June 30th. It's in the customary format you're used to. And I did want to say that these aren't the final numbers, though. It is the fourth of 4 quarters this time. But we're still making adjustments at the year end. We're still writing a few checks for expenses that were incurred in the prior year and still doing some journal entries. So we're just about wrapped up with that. But these numbers, had to run them a little over a week ago, so they're pretty good, but we are still making adjustments. As a reminder, some revenues and expenses are lagging this year due to project delays that are mostly funded by grants and SDCs. So that's why we're under in both revenues and expenditures. Most of these projects, all of these projects are rebudgeted again in the current year we're in now. Most of them fall under the HUD grant, the ASR Aquifer Storage and Recovery Project, Mill Creek Park, and Safe Streets for All. That's the bulk of them. So in all, the city received 87% of its budgeted revenues. Again, that shortfall mostly from the grants that haven't been received yet and SDC transfers that just weren't done for those 4 projects. And the city has spent 74% of its budgeted expenditures. Just some other notes here. The SDC transfers have not been done yet, but we've worked out those numbers and they'll be done this week. So when you're looking at like the cash balances, all of those accounts increased over the year, and that's all the interest revenue and some SDCs that we did receive during the year. But some of those monies will be transferred to the operational accounts in our year-end transfers. Also, the audit has begun for last fiscal year, and we're anticipating to be finished around the end of October, which is much sooner than the previous years. I'm finding myself knowing what to anticipate and getting things done quicker this time, a third time around, so it's much more familiar, and so it's going more smoothly. It's the same for my team as well. It's not just me. And just a little update on the enterprise vehicle fleet transition. We continue to get more vehicles. We got another one today. So we have 5 police vehicles from Enterprise, and 2 more are on order. We still have 6 police vehicles that we own that will be cycled through eventually. On the Public Works side, we have 8 vehicles now from Enterprise, counting the one today, with 2 more on order. And then we still have 4 others that we own and will be cycled out eventually. Through that project, we are sharing vehicles more, so it's a better use of our assets. We didn't add any more vehicles. We did add a few staff that use those vehicles, so more people are using basically the same number of vehicles. Other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have now, or you can always email me as you look through these reports. So that concludes my presentation.
Okay, we hold on one tight second, James. Opportunity for public comment on the fourth quarter fiscal report. Doesn't look like it. Council, any questions for Mr. Brand?
Want me to ask here or ask here?
Oh, I didn't see your hand, sorry. Go ahead, Len.
Any surprise?
You can come up here and...
No, James. Len Hayes, Stayton. Any surprises or anything you want to report out of the norm?
I thought it was... Anyways, go ahead.
Well, it's a very broad question I didn't think about. So nothing's popping to my head. Certainly there's been things throughout the last year that, you know, may have been unplanned, but contained within the budget. Nothing's really jumping out.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Council, any discussion or any questions for Mr. Brand?
Mr. Mayor, this is
Councilor
Councilman.
Patty, go ahead.
Thanks. I just wanted to congratulate you 3 times getting this done, and kind of seems like you've kind of streamlined the process, you know what to expect, and it's expediting it. And so thank you for acquiring that expertise, I guess, and streamlining this for everybody. Appreciate that.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Brand. That leads us to the last item on the agenda. Well, council rules discussion. Julia?
Yes. So as you may recall, this is actually one of your goals, or has been one of your goals. And in the past, I've sort of said, hey, what do you guys want to talk about? And generally, there isn't a lot of discussion. But recently, the council wanted to discuss potentially changing the meeting time. And I was like, well, we need to look and see how that fits into the council rules. And so I did that, but then I also took a deep dive into the council rules themselves and am highlighting, it starts on the memo is on page 29 of your packet, essentially highlighting things that I think you might want to discuss or we would love to get some direction from you on. So starting on chapter 1, general governance, item, I'm so bad with Roman numerals, 6, B3, I just want to highlight, so it talks about appointments are placed on the consent agenda, which is contrary to what we have been doing. And so I would love to get council direction on whether or not you feel strongly about having appointments not on the consent agenda, or what you think about that.
Can you tell me which page that is again, Julia?
So it's on page 34 of your packet. And it's 3.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, just getting clarification. Right now, the council rules say that. Practice has been that it's on the consent agenda, and that seems to have been working, but there may have been a reason. I'm guessing there was a reason why that's in the rules. So just wanting clarification on what council wants to do.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Patty.
Yeah, I'll be frank. I really don't remember why we wanted to remove those from the consent agenda, but I see no need to modify the current practice. I think that we should fit the rule to the practice unless anybody else has a reason why to do something different.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Sims.
Yeah, I'm okay with the current practice of having it on the consent agenda.
And as a reminder, on any consent agenda, anybody can take an item off the consent agenda if there is discussion that is wanted. So, and I know in the past when we have some appointments, counselors, after the consent agenda is approved, there's generally thank yous or what have you. So it's still an opportunity. You still can say something if you want to. Okay. Not hearing, I mean, I'm
Okay, I
hearing
guess I want
Oh.
clarification of what we're doing here. Leaving it as is means the appointments will take place on the consent agenda?
That's what I took it as. Are you,
I just want to understand what we're doing.
so, changing the rules to remove the requirement that appointments be separate so that they can continue
Gotcha.
to be on the
That's what I'm
consent
asking.
agenda.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Okay. Again, in this same section, because it talks about the order of business, and so right now it says communications from the mayor and councilors occur before communications from city staff. We've been doing it the other way. Do you care if we change it to reflect how we've been doing it, or would you prefer us change our practice and you guys go before staff?
It seems counterintuitive to me, but go ahead, Councilor Sims.
I'm okay with the current practice.
Okay.
I mean, change it on the rules so it reflects our current practice.
That, any objection to that, I guess? The next one applies to places throughout the rules, and if I missed something in the summary, we'll make sure that we clean it up if we get the direction, but it's regarding the residency information. We've changed the practice so that you only have to say your city of residence, and so just being more specific rather than place of residence, changing that throughout the code when people are providing public comment, saying city of residence. So that, any objections?
City residence is fine for me.
Okay.
Me too.
Okay, that was the not meat. And then getting into the meat, which is chapter 2, 1, which is regular meetings. It says council will generally hold regular meetings at 7 o'clock on the first and third Monday of every month. If a first or third Monday falls on a city recognized holiday, the meeting will be held on the following business day. So in your packet, you can really set your rules. You can change the meeting day, you can change the meeting time, you could change how often you meet. One suggestion, because if we started meeting earlier, that would affect our ability to have work sessions on that day at 6, or so we'd have to have them sooner or have them on different days. I will say I proposed in the memo that we could potentially schedule work sessions if you decided that you wanted to start meeting earlier on the first and third Mondays. We could meet do work sessions on the second and fourth Mondays. I mentioned that to my staff, and they all like glared at me and kicked me under the table. So that is not supported by staff. So I guess this is the big discussion item, is what you guys want to do as far as the council rules and the meeting times and dates.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Sims.
I would go with what the folks that are coming here from work want to do. So the counselors that are coming from work, I will. Where are you? Yeah. So, and I don't want to meet on the second and fourth Monday for work sessions. Absolutely not.
You concur with my staff.
Council Carey, what's your feelings?
Just for clarification, so the days that we have the extra meetings, could we just do the 6 o'clock and then 7 o'clock council, and when we don't have those meetings, we do a 6 p.m. council meeting?
So the challenge with that is that you notice inconsistency. You want people to know when the meetings are going to be. So you want to know, like, the regular meetings are always going to be at these times. So that would be problematic.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilor Patty.
Yeah, I'm definitely wanting to hear Councilor Ort weigh in on this discussion for sure, I'll be honest. But just speaking individually on this one, I'm in favor of leaving everything as is. I am okay if we have to meet on the second and fourth, but I would like to avoid it just to honestly accommodate staff. Like, they have lives too. I hate the idea of them having to come in and work another Monday night, and, you know, added bonus, I don't have to volunteer that night either, but, like, you know what I mean? So I think that for me, at least, how as a volunteer individually, it works best status quo. But if I'm hearing an outpouring of support for something different, I want to hear what we can do to accommodate those folks.
Are you recommending we wait for Council Ort?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
Can we skip that one, Julia? Come back for Council Ort?
Yep.
Okay.
So the next item is Chapter 5, public comment. And this, again, just sort of highlighting something that was different than what my experiences had been in the past. The current rule is public can comment on all matters requiring a council vote. That's what it actually says. But our practice has been that we are putting it on everything. So I guess I just want to clarify what you want to do in that regard, in terms of, like, maintaining the current practice or aligning with the rule, or changing the rule, because, like, there are some cities that only have public comment on hearing items. So,
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Patty.
Now, I do remember why we did this one. And speaking from historical knowledge, I felt, and I think other councilors on the governing body felt, that the public wasn't being allowed the opportunity to weigh in on council items as we proceeded, because they were required to do everything at the front of the meeting, and so a lot of times they'd be speaking to something that was, like, later on in the agenda. And so personally, as an individual councilor, I think that we should continue to allow it with agenda items.
Okay.
with anything or things that require a vote, because I believe right now.
Anything, I think.
Yeah, Councilor Patty, just from my perspective, I appreciate your comment on that. And so far, sitting here in the role of mayor and having that available to public comment to the people, it's very, very rare that anyone takes advantage of that. It just belays the agenda items from getting discussed, in my opinion. And if we give them an opportunity to speak, just like it was last time prior to this change, I think that's ample time to comment on the topic at hand, and even on the thing, if they choose to sign up for it, they can signify what they want to talk about. That's just my 2 cents.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Sims.
I do like having the availability to comment on all agenda items myself.
Councilor Carey.
So then I'm hearing a consensus for amending the rule to basically reflect the practice, which is that the public is entitled to comment on all matters before the council.
Yeah.
I'll throw out one thought just in response to what the mayor was saying and the flow. Some cities will also have a public comment at the end option.
We used
So
to.
I don't,
We used to. Yeah.
So I don't know if that would make other people feel better or just keep it as is. So.
And I guess I'll add to that. I think, and I know it's the chair's responsibility to recognize people asking for comments, but there's opportunity for people to say, hey, a thought comes to their mind, and then they want to jump up from the audience and say something. In that particular case, would the council want me to acknowledge that person or let them have their opportunity during public comment?
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Personally, individually, I think that it's a difficult decision to make because I think that you have good judgment as far as when things like that have occurred where a citizen has something relevant to contribute. I think that there has been cause for that where you've allowed that kind of thing. And I think you have good judgment. Mayor, down the road, I have no idea what they would be like, and I don't know what we can do with these council rules to prohibit something from kind of being beleaguered. But personally, I think that the having it at the end and then the beginning, I think that still kind of constricts the middle of the meeting. If they start to get some information or staff makes a presentation and they want to comment on those sentiments, I think that we should still leave the opportunity in there.
Okay. Sounds like you have direction.
Okay, Chapter 7, appointments. This is really regarding the council liaisons section. So as you recall, over the past several years, we've done resolutions appointing or designating counselors to be liaisons to different boards and commissions. And we did that. We knew it wasn't really in the council rules, but it was in addition to the council rules. But the council rules also has liaison assignments that really aren't being discussed. So I'll just read it where it talks about the mayor shall appoint one or more council member to serve as council liaisons in the categories below. The intent of the liaison position isn't to prevent a council member from being active or engaged in topics or issues that may be outside the focus of their assigned category. And then there's education, social services and governmental agencies, economic development and housing, public safety and environmental, community relations and outreach, transportation and infrastructure, and then the mayor can serve as liaison for any committee or group they deem appropriate. And that sounds good in concept, but it hasn't been something that I've heard anything, there just doesn't seem to be any structure to that. So I'm wondering if we want to keep this and have some structure, or if we want to just rely on the council liaisons to the different committees.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Sims.
I actually would like to see it be more specific and list the individual boards and commissions that we have liaisons for, or assign a liaisons to. That's my perspective.
Mr. Mayor, don't we have a list of that already? Of people who are responsible and liaisons?
We do. That's what I was saying, is that right now we have that in a resolution, but it's not in the council rules, and then the council rules identifies categories, but there's really no structure to that. And so depending on the direction I receive, I would modify the rules to either incorporate the liaison assignments, or we need to have more discussion about how we fill these categories out.
Mr. Mayor, I think I would agree with the consensus of the council on this one. When the original categories were drafted, I think this was a really conceptualized idea. And now that we've been doing it for a while, we have an idea and specific boards and commissions that are included in these categories. And so this makes sense.
So I think the direction I'm hearing is to modify this to reflect the board and committee liaison assignments. Okay. Okay. Chapter 9, use of attorney and reimbursements. And My guess is that there is a reason for this level of detail in the past, but I think it's a little cumbersome. So the current rule, 1 request per month, maximum of 2 hours without council approval. Additional requests require a majority of approval. I recommend that questions, and we've kind of talked about this in our goal setting, that questions go through me, unless, of course, they involve me, and then you could go straight to the attorney, but go through me, and then I can determine whether or not that's something that has been answered 1,000 times, previously, help make sure I'm gathering all the issues and concerns from council to avoid duplication and help determine if the question is shared or not, with the goal being to limit frivolous questions but not limit legitimate ones. So if you have 10 really amazingly legitimate, practical, relevant questions, it seems not appropriate to say, oh, you've got your 2. So that would be my recommendation.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Patty.
Yeah, sorry to keep talking so much. I was wondering about this. With that, would this still require a majority or whatever to contact the attorney if it wasn't Councilor Sims reaching out to him since he's president? Or would that practice remain the same? I don't know.
You mean if you want to contact him directly?
Right. So if I remember right, we had to have 3 counselors agree that we wanted to have him do any legal request, answering questions or whatever, and then Steve or the council president had the ability to just go directly to him. Would that still be the same practice?
I guess I feel like it's not necessary if we're doing this and there's something where I'm not, if I can't answer a legal question, I'm going to have him write you guys an opinion and I'll forward it to you, or I'll have him come and speak to the council, or have a meeting where you guys can explain that. And I'm a little, I know there's been issues in the past and there's a reason why this is in here. I don't want you not to be able to ask questions, but I want you to ask I want you to ask questions through me, and I want you all to be able to ask the questions without being limited in the number of questions that you're asking.
Okay, thank you. Councilor
Does that
Sims.
make?
I'm okay with having you vet the questions if you can answer them, just because, I mean, it may save on attorney fees and asking duplicate questions to our attorney. So I'm okay if if you can answer those questions, and I think using your judgment to determine if you need to actually have the attorney provide a response. So I'm okay with that.
I agree with that as well.
I guess I'm not okay with that. And here's why. Because that you become the gatekeeper to the city counselor. I want these folks to be able to, if they feel justified or needed, to be able to call the city attorney at will. I understand exactly why this is. In fact, I was on the council when this was implemented, and I know why this was put in place. But that's my concern. My concern is that you suddenly become, you being the city administrator, becomes the gatekeeper to what is the city attorney, and that city attorney is a resource for all these people sitting at this dais. So that's my objection.
And I totally understand that, which is why, I know the reason why it's there. I guess I just don't want you to be limited to 2 per, I guess that's the part that feels weird, is it feels very, if they're legitimate things, then they need to be legitimate things. And so if we need to have the attorney come monthly to check in with you, or have meetings with counselors, but it should be all of council, not necessarily individual counselors, unless that's what, I guess if you're thinking that's what you want, that's fine. But I feel like all counselors should have the information, not just one counselor from the attorney. right?
So I'm thinking about how I utilized it in the past. And if, I don't want to disclose how this took place. I felt compelled to seek legal advice based on the disruption and the internal strife taking place on council at the time. And in turn, that legal advice led to me to try to resolve the issue at hand. And I think we made some advancements in that particular situation. And when those particular observations were shared with him, then that was addressed by legal counsel. And I think part of the reason why it occurred that way is because that also involved your position at the time.
Yeah, and like I said, anything that directly involves my position, I think obviously doesn't have to go through me. Well, let me work on this. I just want to make sure that it's not restrictive to you guys and not having valid questions be able to move forward because you've used your 2. So I understand.
I'm totally down with that. The 2-hour thing, don't get it. I mean, the maximum 2.
Right.
Even the 1 request. I mean, I think just looking at it, I think it was pretty well regulated at the time when we were going through all that strife. And it came to the surface because of what was taking place, and the way it was addressed, I thought was sufficient.
Okay.
But I'll let you, if you want to, so you want to bring this back to us, or what? You want to think about this?
Well,
or I'm the only one objecting to it. Council, it's up to council.
Well, I didn't hear a lot of, I heard issues and concerns, so.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Patty.
No, I think that's a good idea to bring it back with kind of with those thoughts in mind. I think those are good points, and that was kind of where my question with the 1 count, and the 3 were coming from is kind of that's how it was regulated, and we were trying to ensure that there weren't onerous requests or whatever out there from 1 errant counselor versus, and when there's 3, there's a majority, and that makes sense, or if our leadership wants to go ahead and get the answer to something, that also makes sense. And so I was kind of in favor of that structure, but also I don't particularly like the 1 request for 2 hours. I think that's ridiculous, like everybody else, I think.
Councilor Sims.
So real good points from the mayor. I haven't been through this internal strife like that, so that experience is probably pretty valuable. So I guess we can talk or have some more ideas and
Okay.
maybe come to a better conclusion.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, also I appreciate your transparency right there. I am voting on the now, not knowing the past, and so I respect that as well.
Thank you. Okay, Julia.
Okay. Just chapter 9, 12, 3, 2, I'm sorry, I'm like getting myself confused. Thank you. Page 55 of your packet. I would just recommend that we modify the reimbursement to reflect our current practices in the staff world, which is that you get paid for mileage reimbursement based on the current IRS mileage guideline and then per diem consistent with U.S. government GSA, thank you. So unless there's any objections, I would propose to make those modifications. And then I just wanted to point out, and actually I noticed the mayor was doing a little bit of this. As I was reading through this, I just sort of I caught a few things that I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So Chapter 5, 1A2 says the presiding officer must repeat the motion prior to a vote, and I noticed the mayor doing that. I'm like, maybe he's always been doing that, and I just hadn't noticed. Another thing that I found interesting was Chapter 5, 1A12. It talks about call for the question, and it says it requires a majority vote before voting on the motion. And what that reminded me of is during the Budget Committee process, there's been a few times where the question's been called and then we immediately go to a vote, and that's actually not the way the procedures are supposed to work. So when someone calls a question, you vote on whether or not you call the question. So I'm just, and then if that passes, then you go straight to the vote. If it doesn't, then conversation continues. So I just wanted to point that out. There's also the section in Chapter 5, 4F. And I'm highlighting this because I know that there had been some issues recently, and I just want to remind the council, in case you need that as backing, all remarks must be addressed to the council as a whole, and then disruptive behavior is prohibited. Chapter 9, 1A3, counselor questions to staff should be simple day-to-day or routed through the city manager. So just, and I think you guys are doing that, but just keeping that in mind. And then complex questions of staff that require more than 2 hours needs council approval. And I don't think, there's nothing that's come to my mind, but I just wanted to point those out. And so I've gotten some direction. We'll bring some of this back for Councilor Ort to chime in on, but I think what I'll do is I'll draft up some track changes, proposed amendments for a future meeting for us to discuss further with all of you plus Councilor Ort.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, on chapter 9.1.A.4, I'm just kind of curious about that. I feel like I've come up a couple times where, I've had some kind of request to staff, and I'm afraid of that kind of thing. And I just wanted to make sure, does your staff, are they aware that, that is a requirement? If we do something that causes them to work an extra 2 hours, is that something they're aware of? They need to be like, hey, I actually can't do that.
That's a great question. We're actually going to be having an all-staff meeting in early September, and I think I'll make sure that they are reminded of that, because they know that they are, they should and could answer questions of council that are typical of everyday questions that they get. Code enforcement being, certainly one of them, but police things and stuff like that. But it is important that they remember that if there is something like that you're not directing them, and that they don't, they can say, hey, have you checked with Julia or council? But it's also a little challenging too, because there's sometimes, I guess if it's not specific to you, but it's something that's important for council to know, sometimes, so that's where it's like that, I can kind of help make that call too, of like, this is really something that's going to move a conversation forward, and it's critical, and we need to spend some time on it, versus if it's just a pet issue, I think that's a different animal.
Yeah, Julie, I think many of these rules, or the ones we just discussed, were put in place for a reason at the time. And I haven't seen that level of behavior again, so it effectively worked, and or change in council. Okay. That leaves us with communication from city staff.
And I have a few. Just another reminder about the League of Oregon Cities Conference. Councilor Sims is booked, and he's going, but I'm sure he would love to have at least another one of you attend. I also wanted to bring up an issue that if I get head nods, we'll bring up for further conversation. But when we were incorporating the street SDC in the code, James pointed this out or asked the question, and through a little bit more research, we realized that this hadn't been discussed, and that's the street SDC in downtown. Prior to our current update, the last methodology and adoption provided for a reduction in downtown that was included within the methodology and included within what was adopted in that street SDC. This methodology didn't, and we didn't, like I said, we didn't look at it until James was updating the fee schedule. And so I just wanted to bring that up. If we want to look at a reduction, we probably need to check back with FCS and see how drastically that might change the street SDC, or whether or not we just leave it as is. I think when it was done last time, that was probably done for a reason, but that didn't come up through the course of any conversations. So I just wanted to highlight that and check with council on that.
Julia, I guess my question is, did the SDC reduction in downtown at the time, did that hurt us or would it have any impact at all?
I don't know that I can really answer that. I would say because it was incorporated into the methodology, I would assume that the overall SDC was based on the fact that these were going to pay less and others would be paying more. It probably incentivized redevelopment. I mean, that's probably the rationale for it, is that it was going to incentivize redevelopment in downtown. But I can check and check with FCS if there's a quick number that they could give us of like, hey, this is going to affect it by this much.
I guess I was asking the wrong way. It really was. And my recollection was it was a spur development downtown. I'm just wondering if it was successful doing that.
And I don't know that I can answer that.
Gotcha.
Alyssa's saying I don't think so.
Just one business.
Okay.
A piece of.
Council, have any opinion?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Sims?
I mean, I wouldn't mind looking at that because, I mean, isn't it one of our goals to encourage business downtown? So I don't know if it's helping or bringing more businesses into downtown, but I mean, I would encourage it.
I guess there's your head nod.
Well, and I'll check with FCS and see how much of an exercise this might be and how much it might cost, and then if it's going to be a lot, then we can discuss it more. How about that? Okay.
Fair enough.
I wanted to mention, the mayor actually had sent me an email because he'd gotten some questions about Phillips Estates, and I actually noticed that Bill Martinek is in the audience, so he might catch you after the meeting. So I wanted to let you know, because there is some development happening in Phillips Estates. If you recall, or for those of you that weren't on council 10, 15 years ago. The subdivision was approved. There were 2 phases, and there were building permits that were issued based on a stormwater facility that didn't work as designed. I'm sort of oversimplifying this. There were some lawsuits. There was an arbitration agreement that identified ultimately some solutions that would allow permits to be released. And over the past year or so, Mr. Martinek and his team have been working on resolving that, and they've come a long way. They've gotten easements. They have upgraded their design. They've gotten the floodplain permit from Marion County. They've gotten a partial 1200C permit for a portion of it, but not the whole project. But there have been some modifications that we need to continue reviewing to make sure that it's going to actually work as intended. And so it's not done yet, but we're getting closer, and we have issued 2 building permits in that area. And then there are 3 more building permits in review. We will basically, the next steps are we will be able to issue some more once we have approved their plans. So once we're confident that it will work as designed, even before they've constructed it, we'll release some additional permits. Then we will release some more permits when they've completed the interim improvements. There's sort of 2 phases of improvements. And then once they've completed the full project, all stop work order will be released, and they'll be able to get, I believe it's 22 or 24, I can't remember the number, building permits that are affected by the stop work order. And then they also have an application in process through the land use phase for a phase 3 that is going through the process. So I just wanted to let you know that that is happening, because there were some questions. I've tried to provide some updates in your weekly updates, but it's easy to get lost in all those words and pages. So any questions on that?
Do we have a timeline at all for that, or did you?
I've honestly thought they were weeks away for a long, long time, so I think it depends on permitting and what, I think there's been some things where it's like we need some more information from them. Right now we're reviewing it, what they've submitted, so I'm not sure what that timeline is, and then they'll have to construct it.
Okay.
I feel like it's very, very close, especially given that it's been over 10 years since this started, so. Okay. And then I think last but not least, I want Jennifer to come up and just give you an update on the community improvement grants. Oh, thanks.
Okay. Melanie's handing out a little memo that I wrote up. So, hello, Mayor and City Councilors. I'm Jennifer Siciliano, the Community and Economic Development Director. I'll provide a brief recap of the Community Improvement Grant Program for the fiscal year 2024 to 2025 and share the timeline for the upcoming cycle. Last year, the city distributed nearly $14,600 in grants. 9 proposals were submitted, and the council selected several projects for funding. This included the Flowing Through Time mural, the Kiwanis Christmas tree wreath repair, the Spotlight Community Theater stage, and the 505 Men's Collective mural, and then partial funding to the Stayton Soccer Club. Together, they helped beautify public spaces, support the arts, strengthen community pride in Stayton. For the next fiscal year, 2025 to 2026, the city is budgeting $20,000 for the program, which will be funded through the Marion County Community Prosperity Initiative. That's money from the lottery. To provide recipients more time, the application process will open in September. Applications will be due in November, and the council will consider awards in January. Last year, we did it in April. So this schedule will give awardees 3 or 4 additional months to complete their projects for the fiscal year. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Sims?
So the Stayton Soccer Club, they only needed $487.97, or that's all they?
That's all they submitted.
Okay.
That's all they submitted. I was hoping they'd get the whole, but.
Okay, didn't sound like they needed the whole 587 then? Okay, all right, that was my only question. I just wondered, because we did have some unused funds from Kiwanis, evidently.
Yes, so so the Kiwanis Club, they weren't able to expend all their money before June 30th. He did say that he went ahead and funded the full funds recently and purchased all the items now. So he's hoping that maybe the next coming year he'll be able to get those funds reimbursed. But
well, that's good news. Yeah, that was they needed some work on those lights, definitely.
yeah.
Is that it?
That's it.
Thank you. Now's an opportunity for communication from the council and the mayor. I'll let council go first. Anything?
One quick question.
Councilor Carey, go ahead.
Latter part of last week and the beginning of this week, what are we surveying on First and Cascade Highway and Fern Ridge? Or Shaft?
I am guessing that's related to the Safe Streets to School grant
Okay.
at 3rd and...
By the cemetery?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got it right.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Julie, I have a question. Do we have any opportunities for people that live close to the city but not actually in the city limits to be on boards or commissions?
So
I thought we did at one
So right
point.
now, we do within the Arts Commission.
Okay.
You made that modification, and I
Right.
believe on the Planning Commission, there is, maybe I'm thinking of another
It
city.
used to be a student, right, or something?
The student planning.
I'm going to let Alyssa talk.
Okay.
It's a library board. On the library board is one that can have someone who's within the CCRLS
Okay.
or a surrounding community.
Gotcha. Okay. So there is a possibility for folks that want to volunteer to be more active in the city, even if they live just outside the city.
A few, yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
And ultimately, I guess I would say that that's in the, based on what's in the municipal code, and that is a council policy decision. If there was a overwhelming desire to open that up on a board or commission, we can certainly discuss that. So if I would seek direction if that's the desire, but right now
Sure.
what's in the code
Yep. No,
is that.
and I appreciate that clarification. And just for reference for the council, if we have one street literally that is adjacent to a city street, but that other street is in the county, that's what I'm looking at. It's trying to give those folks an opportunity to help. Because it was expressed to me that they'd like to be more active in it. And so I wanted to clarify it. So appreciate that.
And I would always remind, anybody is welcome to come to any of our events, council meetings, any of the commissions,
Yeah.
library, all sorts of fun things. So, we want people to still be involved, even if they're not on a board.
Yeah, and they actually are here tonight, so thank
Awesome.
you. What's that? Yeah, right. Julia, there was a email floating around about the trees downtown. Do we know anything about that species? And
I'm not sure what you're referring to. I did see
Like-
something on Facebook.
no, this is just an email that I was CC'd on about the type of trees that are being chosen that don't ruin the sidewalk. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
I just didn't know if staff was aware of it and there was a discussion about it.
I'm-
Because this has been going, it's gone over the years for several people saying, hey, this particular type of tree shouldn't be allowed, or this should be allowed
Okay.
because of the damage it does.
So
to the
from the public, an email that has
Yes.
come in?
It was a business owner from downtown.
Okay, I don't know that I haven't seen it. It sounds like my staff has, but I'm not aware of it. So we will
I'll
follow
send it
up.
to you.
Yeah.
Still have it.
And I will say, so as we are very much aware of tree-related issues. We've had some trees cut down, and so I am aware that there is tree discussion. Staff, both Jennifer and Barry and their teams, are going to be discussing it a little bit further and probably coming with some recommendations to council. So there is discussion, but I'm not familiar with that specific email.
And the last thing I'd like to acknowledge is the success of National Night Out to the Pioneer Park location, as well as the neighborhoods that held it. I don't know if we covered that last time, but just a little nod to that. I think it was a good opportunity for people to engage with their neighbors and come out and just see the council and have some discussion. So hats off for doing a good job there. And with that, any other thing, council? All right, with that, we're adjourned.
Thank you.